I'm Kent Shuffle. Thanks for being with us. Jim Schrader, the publisher of the Telegraph, is here. Welcome, Jim.
Hi, Kent.
And Pat Gowan, one of the editors with the Post-Dispatch, is alongside as well. Welcome, Pat.
Hi, Kent.
Pat, the Telegraph's carried a series of articles on the state pensions that are being paid to former teachers that are now working for the various unions, both state and national unions that represent educators, as well as some members of the Illinois Association of School Boards and the pensions they're drawing. Bottom line, should these individuals be eligible for state pensions after they leave their teaching positions and then move on to jobs with either the union or the association?
Well, the pure answer is yes if they've earned the teacher pension, but what's happening here is a little more complicated than that, and it bears explanation because if our readers haven't seen the stories, they're going to be as lost as I was when I started reading the stories because I didn't understand how this had worked. My wife is a teacher. She puts in 9.4% of her pay to her pension, teacher's retirement system. It's the non-Chicago Illinois teacher's retirement system. She puts in 9.4%, and essentially the state matches that, the state and the school board together, but the school board puts in a very tiny fraction. So state puts in essentially the same as she does in a fund, and they invest the money. In the end, she comes out with a fixed benefit pension. We all know that the pensions have been underfunded by the state. It has shortchanged its share, and that the investment projections have been overly optimistic given the economy, so that the teacher's pension fund is underfunded. If everybody tried to take out what they've got coming right now, it wouldn't make it, which is not the same thing as being insolvent. Actually, they're making more money than they're paying out right now, but there are long-term concerns. So much for that pension. The issue here is that if you were eligible for a teacher's pension, let's say you were a teacher and you worked, I don't know, 5 or 10 years as a public school teacher, and then you were hired away as a full-time employee of a teachers union. Could be the Illinois Education Association, Illinois Federation of Teachers, doesn't matter. Or you went to work for the Illinois School Board Association. They are eligible under the TRS program as a private employer. They put in a share, and you put in a share to the teacher's retirement system, and you can stay in the teacher's retirement system. So you continue to accrue benefits as though you were continuing to work for the government, but you're not working for the government, you're working for a private entity linked to education. Now, I guess if the private side payment were enough, as if the state's state's payment were enough, that the pension system would be solvent, and it would seem strange, but it wouldn't really matter to the taxpayers. Since things are underfunded and the investments are underperforming, one might assume that what's happening here is that to some small extent, TRS is subsidizing private pensions. How this came to be, I don't know, though it's easy to imagine what was happening is you had people who wanted to go into teachers' unions who weren't quite vested in the state pension, and this was a way to accommodate them without having to start over with a pension. Illinois is a very strong union state. Unions have held a lot of sway here for a lot of years. There have been a lot of screwy pension laws in the past in Illinois that benefited small groups of people. This is a small group of people. There are 60-some who are drawing this pension. There are 50-some who are eligible for it out of 380,000 people in the TRS system. So they are a tiny slice of what's going on there. But they're a lucrative slice because their salary is set not by the state, not by the school board, but by the union, and most of them make pretty good money. The average recipient is getting about $100,000 a year in pension, as opposed to the average teacher who's getting about $43,000 a year out of the pension fund. So this series of stories lifted the hood on it, exposed the inner workings of it. I'd never heard of it. I suspect most people had never heard of it. It may cause some hue and cry. It probably does not have a great financial impact, if much of any, but it's one of those things that people are going to point to and say, boy, there's this. If you don't happen to be a fan of teachers' unions, you're going to point to this and say, this smells bad. And my guess is there's going to be a lot of pressure to try to adjust it, as pensions in general in Illinois have been adjusted, but without affecting the pensions of the people already involved in it. And I imagine that will be the conclusion here, too.
Well, what's unfortunate about that, there's nothing illegal about it. You know, this is by the guidelines that were set up in the TRS, the Teachers Retirement System. These were the guidelines that basically the state agreed to allow to have these former vested employees in the Teachers Retirement Center our retirement system to go to work for one of the teachers' unions, so less directly involved in education, but still somewhat involved with the teaching profession. And those are the ones that are collecting very sizable, as Pat said, well in excess of $100,000 in pension systems, when the average teacher that they are ostensibly managing or negotiating for, in the case of teachers unions, are getting well less than half of that. You have several people, I think 60, that are getting like upwards of $200,000 a year as a pension payment, when you've got the people they're representing doing 40 or 43 or so. There was one individual, there's an individual called Kenneth Drum, named Kenneth Drum, and he was I guess the director of the TRS. He spent 12 years in a classroom, so he spent 12 years as a teacher. Then he was hired by IFT, Illinois Federation of Teachers. He has now collected more than $2 million in pension payments, when the vast majority of his payments in, or what they were the salary based upon, was not when he was a teacher in the classroom, but it was his time as a director at a much more highly compensated rate, making a whole lot more money. That 10%, or 9.4 as Pat puts it, that the taxpayers are supposed to put out, that 9.4% of a teacher making $43,000 a year, or that 9.4% of a union representative making $150,000 a year, is why this concern has come up. The whole public pension system, by most people's qualifications, is broken. It's underfunded, and not just in the state of Illinois. This is a problem that every municipality, every state, even the federal government is facing, to a much less degree, but similar circumstances in Social Security. It's not keeping pace with people that worked until they were 65, retired, and died in 2 years. Now they retire at 57, 63, 65, and may live another 30 years collecting this fixed benefit pension. Again, nothing illegal about it. It would take huge changes at the state to change the way this happens. Government employees are some of the few employees that still have fixed benefit retirement packages, and for those who don't know the difference, a fixed benefit says you work 23 years and you retire at this age and you've paid in this amount. This is what your retirement will be from day one forward. There's no adjustment, there's no cost of living, as opposed to maybe a 401k or something like that. These were pension plans that were set up when things were flush and things were good and people didn't live a long time. Now they need to be revisited, or the taxpayer is on the hook for millions and millions and millions of dollars that some say we shouldn't be on the hook for.
We need to take a break. We'll have more Metro Talk right after this.
Hi, I'm Audrey Lucchese, and I'm from Alton, Illinois. I love music, and that's why I came to Lewis & Clark. It's been an amazing experience here at Lewis & Clark, working with students that are so talented, coming from all over the area, and they work so hard to follow their dreams. The music faculty at Lewis & Clark they're fantastic, and they're there every step of the way to push you to follow your dreams. One of the unique opportunities that I have had at Lewis & Clark is being able to record my own music with a fellow student here. Being able to record our music has opened doors for us in the music industry. My long-term goal is to finish here at Lewis & Clark and then to transfer to a 4-year school and finish my degree in music performance. I would recommend Lewis & Clark to another student because it is definitely a great place to get started and it can open so many doors for you.
Big dreams and good grades aren't enough to get into college. There are actual steps you need to take. Finding someone who can help is the first and most important. For the next steps, go to knowhowtogo.org.
This is Metro Talk. I'm Kent Scheffel. Pat Gowan and Jim Schrader are here. Jim, Republican leaders in Springfield say they want to repeal the state's income tax. They'd also like to look at revising the whole tax structure in Illinois. Is there any chance of repealing taxes, reforming taxes, when the Democrats are in control? Does it make sense for the Republicans to be going down this road?
Well, I've thought about this a lot, and I think there's really two chances for them to change it the way it is now, and one's fat and one's slim. It's not going to happen. The Democrats are in charge. This is one of those things that when you're a politician and you're kind of fishing and you're trying to set the hook, and you know the fish is playing with the bobber a little bit, and you want to set the hook and pull them in. We want to reform the income tax situation in the state of Illinois. And we're going to tear it up and throw it out the window and start over. So if you vote for me and vote those guys out, then we'll get this done when we get there. It ain't gonna happen. It's in part, I can't imagine the amount of years that would go into trying to just tear it up and go from a blank sheet of paper on the tax code for the state of Illinois. I'm not sure how you even pay the bills while you're doing it through, because we're sure not paying the bills as we are now. But to say that we've got a better way and not having to come forward with this would be our plan, and maybe we'll go through this on a bipartisan effort and we can tear the tax code up and start over again. But just to stand and say, we want to do this, and we can do this if you elect us, there's no substantiation of their claims. There's no way for the informed voter to say, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense at all. What I would just ask, be it Republican claim or Democratic claim, anytime somebody tells you while they're campaigning what they are going to do when they get elected, remember, these people are not running for king. They don't get to go up and pass decrees. Everything is done through a series that involves a whole lot of other people, be it from the president telling you what he's going to do when he gets elected, or the governor, or your state rep, or your state senator. They're not going to do anything without the cooperation of all of the rank and file around them in the Capitol or in Washington, D.C. This sounds good, and it sounds like a party that's trying to capitalize on the mistrust of government that's going on right now. But I've seen nothing that makes me feel like they've got a better plan.
Pat, Republicans in Springfield are saying they'd like to repeal the state income tax. They'd like to reform the tax system in Illinois. Is there any chance of that happening?
No. And the timing could not be worse. This is like setting Jim's pants on fire. As the pants are taking flame, we can say, now, Jim, this would be a good time for you and I to stand here and talk about the virtues of acquiring flame-resistant pants. He's got other things on his mind. He's not going to stand there and have the conversation.
Wait, I'm just doing the mental picture thing.
I know, man.
I'm trying not to.
State's pants are on fire. We're trying not to burn up here in the middle of this mess. And this is the kind of thing you discuss when times are good, and when there's no immediate threat that if you rock the apple cart too hard, everything will just collapse, which it's almost doing under its own weight now. At a time when everybody's getting along reasonably well politically, they are not. Even the Democrats in Illinois can't get along with each other. They're running everything and they still can't get along. So it is not a good time. Now, in Illinois, as a provision of the Constitution, you've got to consider, is it every 20 years, whether to have a constitutional convention. And we just went through that a couple years ago, so it's not due to come up again. But it seems to me that the way to do it, if you're going to do it, is to do it by constitutional convention and just start over. But let's talk about what starting over means, because if somebody promises, well, we're going to do away with all the loopholes and all the exemptions, okay? Let's do away with any incentive for your home mortgage. Everybody in favor of that? You know, no advantage, no deduction, nothing for home mortgage.
Let me get my mortgage paid off, then it's a great idea.
Got it. Now, charities, you can't be taking tax breaks for the money give to charities. So the churches, and United Way, everybody's going to like that a whole lot. I mean, the reason the tax code is so complicated is because it is written to incentivize, in some cases, behaviors to favor certain people, whether deserved or not. And you can look at the tax code and see where you feel like you're being ripped off by people who don't have the same interests you do. But you've got some dogs in the hunt. And if you're going to put everything on the table, you're apt to lose some things as well as gain some things. And how willing we are as a people in the state to do this, I don't know. So when somebody promises you elect me, this is going to happen, that's absolute bunk, like Jim says. But the second step is, don't be quick to think you want it to happen. It's this way for a reason. It has evolved. I'm not saying it's not broken in many ways. I'm saying that the fix is going to be very complicated. And in my mind, all fixes like this should be comprehensive. I think we need to step back and look at everything at once if we're going to look at anything, to see how all the pieces fit together and whether what we're funding and how we're funding it makes sense. But this is not something that you can do while you're busy rowing or bailing out the rowboat, and that's what the state government's doing right now. There's no will for it. It's not the time for it. And if somebody's promising it to you for a vote, keep your eyes open.
Well, one of the things we've talked about so many times on this show is school funding through property taxes. That's the one that people regularly say they want torn up, but nobody comes up with a better plan. Because if you're going to have the action of tearing up and starting over, you're going to have the reaction of some of the things in the new plan you're not going to like, and you're not going to like, and I'm not going to like.
Look at how people are reacting to the national health care, to the Obamacare thing. And many people want to cling, those who have it, I guess, to employer-paid insurance, which, you know, why we have employer-paid health insurance but not employer-paid car insurance, employer-paid fire insurance. When you get down to it, one doesn't make any more sense than the other. But it's a good lesson. Whether you're for Obamacare or against it, doesn't matter. Look at the controversy that attends that, and that is a sweeping reform of something that affects everybody's life. And on a state level, the kind of taxation changes you're talking about would be sweeping reform that would affect everybody, and you'd have a lot of unhappy people.
We'll have more Metro Talk right after this.
Hello and welcome to the Lewis and Clark Minute. Today we're going to check out the radio broadcasting program in WLCA with Mike Lemons.
Have you ever listened to your favorite radio station or your favorite disc jockey and say, you know, I could do that? Or maybe you're the type of person who says, I could never do something like that. Well, with the help of first-year mass comm student John, we're going to show you just how easy it is. Each voice intro starts with talking about the band that just played, and we add a station identifier. Next, you want to offer some information that may be of interest to your audience. And finally, tell the listeners what the next song is, who sings it, followed by another station identifier. John will do one live now.
Silver Sun Pickup Substitution on WLCA. The Big Pink released their debut album called A Brief History of Love. The single is off that album. It's The Big Pink with Dominoes. It's on College Radio's Best 89.9.
This has been your Lewis and Clark Minute.
What's that? I don't know. Something I kind of made. Ooh, what's it do?
What do I do? Well, thanks for asking. I ring my bell and I like to dance. What do I do? Well, thanks for asking.
Ow! Yeah, it still needs a little work.
Anything's possible. Keep thinking. Get started on your own inventions or just play some games at inventnow.org.
Sounds like you could use some Van Gogurt. It's fortified with arts-rich nutrients to improve your math and reading skills. Catch!
Van Gogurt, thanks. So what's the deal with your ear?
Always with the ear, huh?
Feed your kids the arts. For 10 simple ways to learn how, visit AmericansForTheArts.org.
You're watching Metro Talk. I'm Ken Scheffel. Pat Gowan's here. Jim Schrader's here. Pat, Governor Quinn's approval rating has dropped below 50%, according to a Fox TV poll in Chicago. Is it a problem for the governor if his approval rating's below 50%?
Well, bigger than that. According to that poll, his approval rating's dropped below 30%. So Obama's below 50, Quinn's below 30. People are unhappy. People are scared. They're scared to lose the jobs they've got. They're frustrated about the jobs they've lost. They're scared they're going to lose their homes. They're scared for the homes they've lost. Somebody's got to be responsible for this. And the more singular the pedestal on which you stand, the better a target you are. So I think everybody believes that President Obama has more power to fix things than anything rooted in reality. I think more people think Governor Quinn has the ability to fix things that is rooted in any kind of remote reality. And in fairness, people who are presidents and people who are governors are quick to take credit when things go well that they also may have only a tangential connection to. And I guess that's the payoff for being blamed for things that go poorly that you may also only have a tangential connection to. I don't know how to gauge. If I were asked how I felt about Governor Quinn's performance, I don't know how I would gauge it exactly. I mean, I've got a job, my wife has a job, you know, we're doing okay through this, much better than a lot of people. So am I happy with it? Or am I unhappy because we've got this cockamamie situation with the Regional Office of Education where people are elected to a job that they're not even paid for anymore? Doesn't really make any sense. That rests with Quinn, and no real provision's been made for settling their jobs. I look at that and I say, well, is that good leadership? I don't like that. So maybe from a more objective and a less visceral standpoint, I would still not be terribly happy with his job performance. On the other hand, using my analogy with Jim with the pant leg on fire, Quinn's got both pant legs on fire. Nobody, who would want to be governor in the middle of this kind of mess? So I think it's volatile. I think as the economy improves, and it will improve, I don't know when, I don't know if Quinn will still be governor when it does, but as it improves, I think that will probably raise his approval rating. If we go into the next election, and it's a ways off, but if we go into the next election in this kind of economy, then he's going to be in real trouble.
Jim, is it a problem for Governor Quinn that his approval rating has dropped so far?
Well, if it ain't, it ought to be. I don't know that it's quite. I guess the governor or the president, in this particular case, since Pat also brought up President Obama's approval rating, I think that person becomes the figurehead. It is not so much I'm disappointed with how that person does their job. It's how disappointed I am or how angry I am at how government works, or the state of the economy, or my tax bill, or not my employment situation, or the fact that my employer is moving jobs to Mexico, and it's just somebody has to be the point person. As Pat says, when the governor and the president, when things are going well, those are the guys that stand up and say, golly, didn't I do good? And then they get upset when they're blamed. Take the credit when it's good, don't take the blame when it's bad. So I think these become the figureheads that I'm mad at the economy, I'm mad at my work situation, I'm mad at my job situation, I'm mad at my tax bill, it must be Quinn's fault. Or I'm mad at the federal government and I'm mad at how much money they waste, and I'm mad that we're in Afghanistan and I'm mad at, so it must be Obama. You can't say I'm mad at 535 members of Congress. It's a little easier to direct your ire at one person. In this particular case, it happens to be the president, or I'm mad at state representatives that I have nothing to do with, or I'm mad at state senators that I have nothing to do with. Let's blame it on the governor. He's the one who claims to be at the top.
Pat, the St. Louis County Police Department is allowing its officers to start carrying their own rifles in their patrol cars. Any problem with officers carrying their own weapons while they're on the job?
It doesn't seem so in this case because they're required to qualify with the weapons as though they were department weapons. They've got to be within the parameters of the kind of weapons the department would be issuing if it could afford to. This is St. Louis County. They just can't afford to give enough rifles to all the patrolmen that have the money. So they're saying if you've got one that you can qualify with and you've got one that meets the specifications that we would use, then we will allow you to carry it in the car, you know, under those kind of controls. This is all rooted in a LA bank robbery from about 15 years ago where two heavily armed guys opened fire on cops, and there were like 11 cops and 5 or 6 civilians were wounded. Miraculously, nobody died but the robbers. But the police were so outgunned that while a SWAT team with heavy weapons was on the way, street cops ended up going to a gun store and talking the manager out of whatever they could get that was heavy enough weapons to return fire to these guys with heavy body armor and fully automatic weapons. I think I would rather not count on the police that I need to control a situation having a gun store nearby where they can prevail on the owner to, can I borrow something heavy to shoot back with? It's a sad statement on the times that's required. A rifle is a longer range weapon. It's a higher powered weapon. It's a more accurate weapon than a shotgun or a pistol. And sadly for the times, I think they probably need them, and I don't see a problem with it.
If they need them, maybe the onus should be on us to supply them. One of the nice things about uniformity, either it being in a warfare situation for the Army or the Marines or whatever, or even in the case of a police department, is the uniformity of weapons. Everybody has this weapon and has been trained on this weapon. Or, you know, this 12-gauge shotgun, and everyone has one exactly the same, so everybody knows exactly how to load them, how to unload them, how the breech works, so on and so forth. Same handgun. If Pat and I are partners and we both are carrying 40 caliber Glock Model 23s, and something happens to my partner and I'm pinned down, his ammunition still works in my gun. There's one of the fallacies that I see in that. I'm also concerned that the potential for lawsuits, since we live in a litigious society, oh no, you know, he shot my baby boy and he was using his own gun, not one issued by the department, therefore he must have some liability.
Fairness, then they require them all to be .223 caliber for the ammunition thing, and they, like a lot of departments, allow officers who qualify to carry their own handguns as well.
Oh no, I understand, but I think there's something to be said for the uniformity. Everybody's carrying the same thing.
We need to say goodbye. Thanks for being with us. I'm Kent Scheffel. Pat Gowan, one of the editors with the Post-Dispatch, has been here, along with Jim Schrader from the Telegraph. We'll see you next time.